Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this fireside chat from the Advanced Propulsion Centre. We've called this an introduction to DRIVE35 Collaborate. We hope you find the session useful and informative. So I'm Stephen Gasser. I'm one of the business development team here at APC, and I'll be your host. And I'm also joined by my colleague Martin Welch, who's one of our senior delivery leads here at APC. Before we start, I just wanted to cover a few housekeeping topics. Today's webinar will be recorded and a link will be sent out to everyone who registers. We welcome you to revisit the content and share this with your colleagues. Some of the slides will have QR codes for our website, but we'll also be posting all the links in the chat. And we'll be holding a Q&A session at the end, so please use the chat to send your questions in at any point. With that out the way, we want to take some time to introduce you to the Advanced Propulsion Centre and our competitions to you, especially and specifically Collaborate. We want to get you thinking about how engaging with APC could benefit you and your organisation. Our output from today is hopefully to give you a number of things. We want to give you the confidence that this competition is right for you. We want to give you the belief that you can assemble the consortium required and the motivation to go ahead and then to compile an application. We also hope that the output from today's session will drive your interest and curiosity and will lead you to attend the official applicant briefing in early July. More details about this event will be issued after this webinar. Importantly, we want to introduce you to some of the people who will be able to help you. We want to show that applications can be developed with a degree of support, and then once successfully funded, we want to show that we're on hand throughout the delivery phases. If this is your first time of meeting the APC, or if you're new to us, we're a bridge between the UK government and the automotive industry, consulting, designing and setting the scope of the funding competitions, such as Collaborate, which we'll be speaking about today. Since it was jointly founded by the Department of Business and Trade and the automotive industry in 2013, APC has helped to facilitate funding projects that can support zero-emission vehicle manufacturing. We make sure that grant funding opportunities work, and as a result, become a bit of a catalyst to support the UK automotive industry and the supply chain. Gluing all this together are a couple of key documents that can be found online, particularly the UK's Modern Industrial Strategy, which has a dedicated section on advanced manufacturing, and there you'll find a reference to the automotive industry, DRIVE35, and the 10-year funding runway that supports the vitally important sector. So let's take a little bit of time to introduce DRIVE35 to you. DRIVE35 is an incredible funding programme that was launched in July 2025, and it's delivered by the Department of Business and Trade in partnership with APC and Innovate UK as part of the UK government's Advanced Manufacturing Sector Plan. Through DRIVE35, £4 billion of grant funding is available to 2035 for automotive R&D, scale-up and transformation. There are three pillars of funding: innovation, scale-up and transformation. The competition we're discussing today, Collaborate, sits under the innovation pillar, which aims to support R&D projects that design, develop and manufacture strategically important technologies for the automotive sector. Your project will support the UK's transition to zero-emission vehicles and become part of the pathway to a net zero automotive industry. So let's take some time now just to drill a little bit deeper into Collaborate itself. Collaborate is a really exciting competition and it's very well regarded. The key to it is it's built around consortium working. To sum it up, Collaborate brings organisations together, builds opportunities, strengthens networks and harnesses the expertise of each organisation. Bringing those organisations together to deliver collaborative late-stage zero-emission R&D projects, helping promising technologies take the final steps towards manufacturing readiness and market adoption. The aim of this competition is to support collaborative R&D projects that design, develop and enable the manufacture of strategic and disruptive technologies which target post-project commercialisation with a clear articulation on how the innovation will be brought to market or used in an industrial setting. The good thing is that DRIVE35 is a very broad programme. And the really pleasing news is the fund covers all aspects of onboard vehicle and component technology. We're going to take a little bit of time now just to dig a little bit deeper into each one of these themes. The competition to collaborate has specifically 3 sections to it: zero-emission vehicle technologies, manufacturing competitiveness, and software-defined vehicles. And you should be looking at these when exploring the scope of your project. And we'll leave the slide just on the screen for you for a couple of seconds to have a look at. Essentially, these are the 3 key themes that we want you to try and build your projects around. You can focus on one, you can focus on all 3. It doesn't matter as long as you can fit the project within the scope of those areas that you see there. Up to £25 million of match funding is available for UK registered businesses of any size with a project that fits in this scope. The consortium, made up of OEMs, SMEs and academic organisations, will nominate a lead partner from the start, and we'll look at eligibility in a bit more detail shortly. As always, with competitions of this nature, please take some time to read the documentation and project scope. We want you to be able to pick the right project at the right time with the right partners that brings you a reasonable success, a chance of success. For example, there has been a little change to the value for money assessment that some of you may well know from past collaborative exercises. And now we're looking at the wider package of CO2 benefits, and this will help projects in the supply chain. But it's important that you think about what benefits you're going to get from a program such as this. Putting together a consortium and writing that application may take a little bit of time. But when your project is successfully funded, you'll gain far more than financial support. And we've outlined some of those benefits for you here. You'll strengthen and accelerate manufacturing and R&D in the UK, allowing your team to continue to push those boundaries. You'll build a competitive edge and position of your business and hopefully get it ahead of the rest of the market. You'll raise your profile and expand your network, opening doors across the automotive supply chain. You'll foster a culture of creativity and innovation and fuel long-term continuous improvements. Having access to funding will also create momentum for future projects. You can grow beyond a single competition. And importantly, we'll be here every step of the way. You access guidance and support from APC, our business development team, and our program development leads to give you expert advice on bid development and running those projects. Martin's going to give you some more insight as to the work of the PDLs shortly. But let's get you thinking about the funding itself and the eligibility position that you need to find yourself in before making that application. So when putting the application together, there are a few things we're going to ask you to consider. So firstly, let's look at that funding piece. Applicants can request a grant funding request of between 2.5 and 25 million pounds. Projects can be a minimum of 50% match funded. For example, if you're asking for a 2.5 million pounds in grant, your total eligible project costs need to be a minimum of 5 million. And then we're going to need to look at some of the key outputs required. The key technology in the programme is expected to reach TRL7 or MRL6 by project close, with a key starting point around TRL4. So have a think about how the project sits within your own plans or technical roadmaps, as Collaborate funding covers projects that are potentially 18 to 30 to 36 months in duration. Be mindful of the scope. There's the opportunity to fund projects that support the UK's transition to zero-emission vehicles and then on that pathway to net zero. The fund covers off-road and on-road vehicles. If you're unsure if your project idea fits, then please contact the team here at APC for further advice. All we generally need from you to discuss the eligibility of your project is a short summary, no more than a page of A4 in duration. It's important to recognise that any UK registered business can be the lead applicant, but the project, as the name suggests, must be collaborative. To collaborate with a lead partner, again, you have to be a UK registered business representing any business of any size, be it SME, OEM or a Tier N. You can be an academic institution, you can be a charity or not-for-profit organisation, a public sector organisation, or a research and technology organisation. So it's down to you to have a think about your supply chain, have a think about your networks, your customers. You may already have people in your network who've engaged with APC in previous projects. Think about how you can bring those people together. Think about how you can work together to find the right opportunity to present for funding. Because Collaborate itself has a broad range of options for you to consider when thinking about projects. As we said before, in the past, APC has accommodated projects on drivetrain applications only, but DRIVE35 looks at every component on the vehicle. And again, we can break these project areas down into 3 specific themes. We're looking at zero-emission vehicles, so focus on products and process innovations that contribute towards achieving zero emissions for onboard vehicle applications throughout the life cycle of the vehicle. That could be battery, that could be battery storage, that could be things such as lightweighting or power electronics. There's a huge area here for you to think on and focus. And as we move towards that area of electrification, these projects become increasingly strategically important to us. So take some time to think about how those zero-emission vehicles come into play. Also think about the differences between on-road and off-road vehicle applications and how those fit in scope with APC. The key element for you to consider is zero tailpipe emissions. For off-road applications, there is some scope to utilise non-fossil fuels to move towards that area, and particularly perhaps hydrogen could be an element for you to consider in that space. But something we're really pleased about, and something we're really keen to include in this section, is the issue of manufacturing competitiveness. As you know, the government has committed to making up to 1.3 million vehicles a year by 2035, a target we hope we'll all meet. In order to do that, we need to ensure we have the supply chain effectiveness to go with it. And that's where manufacturing competitiveness comes into play. And as you'll see from the slide, what we're looking to do here is use innovation to improve efficiency, productivity, and cost competitiveness of manufacturing plants and their related supply chain. What that means to you is we could look at issues of automation, lean manufacturing, circularity, the use and application of power. This is a really interesting area for manufacturing organisations to consider and look at. And we're seeing an increased number of inquiries and questions about this theme as DRIVE35 starts to grow in maturity. If you're an organisation that makes something, or you're associated with an organisation that makes something, please take some time to have a look at that area of manufacturing competitiveness. You may think you're perhaps looking at a project that cuts across the area of zero-emission vehicles only, but when you drive into it, you might see that manufacturing competitiveness also applies. Another brand new area for us is that of software-defined vehicles, electronic architectures. So again, we're starting to see now lots of scope and questions around this specific area where organisations are considering how they can develop, utilise and apply software to cover off, for example, parts of the central computing network of the vehicle itself. Take a little bit of time to have a look at the scope for software-defined vehicles because it covers certain aspects, and then other aspects of the vehicle technology may well be covered by funding available from our sister organisation, Zenzik. If you're unsure about Zenzik, we'll send some links out later on today. They cover the world of connected automated mobility, and you'll see there's a slight difference in the scope of their projects and the scope of those presented by APC. But certainly take some time to consider how their software applications can bring value to the UK and add to the innovation we've been speaking about this afternoon. So hopefully that starts you thinking a little bit about those 3 themes. It's important again that you engage with us early. It's important that you engage with your network early and start thinking about how these projects can come together. In the last few minutes, we've talked a little bit about Collaborate, and hopefully we've given you that introduction. We've talked about the kind of company that can apply and those organisations that can be involved. And we've talked about the scope themes. A date for your diaries now is that the next round of Collaborate applications will open on the 22nd of June. When it does, you'll be able to apply for funding via our website. We strongly encourage you to reach out with us with your questions and ideas early so that we can support you. The more we know about you, the more we talk to you, then the better place we are to give you the most appropriate advice that hopefully goes on to you making a strong submission, and that submission then being successfully funded. We want you to be successful, but it's important that you understand the scope and the nature of the program, and the kind of information that's required in order for you to make that successful bid. We're going to try and bring that to life a little bit for you now. We're going to try and talk to you about some of the Collaborate projects that have been successful. As we said, APC has now had a 13-year history of delivering the projects of this nature across the industry. Lots of jobs have been created, lots of projects have been delivered, lots of funding has been issued, and we're starting to see the impact of some of those areas, some of those projects across the UK. And we wanted to bring Martin into today's discussion because it's an absolute pleasure to work alongside Martin and his team. They're instrumental in supporting APC projects and be able to provide a unique insight to the projects themselves and give you some hints and tips that will help you'll find useful. So Martin, I'm going to pass to you now and get you thinking and talking about what type of Collaborate projects we've funded and tell us a little bit about what you've been engaged in.
Yeah, sure, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity. As an engineer, there's nothing I like more than sitting on a camera talking to a bunch of people. It's really is my natural landscape. But anyway, here we go. So yeah, I mean, you've mentioned the funding landscape itself, and in particular, Collaborate. I've picked a couple of projects that sit in my portfolio to talk about, really to try and illustrate kind of the breadth of what's fundable almost. So the first one I want to talk about is a project of mine called Additive. It's again, both of these projects are multi-million-pound funded projects, so the broad, big in scope in terms of the delivery and whatnot. Additive involves YASA, who are grew out of an Oxford University startup back in the day, and they've been part of the funding journey that's given them the success that they now enjoy. Domin, they are a non-automotive SME based down in Bristol, making electro-servo hydraulic valves for all kinds of things, not including the likes of lumber mills and Disney World. So quite an eclectic combination there. And then Cranfield, which again completes the jigsaw that normally makes up a Collaborate project of a kind of tier 1/OEM, an SME, and an academic partner. So I think one of the project itself is about creating an active corner unit. YASA have their very revolutionary and novel e-machines. Domin, through their expertise in ESH valves, have come up with an active suspension unit. And the light bulb moment those guys had was that you're combining those two things together creates a really outstanding opportunity for new vehicle architectures where you're offsetting the unsprung mass of the in-wheel motor with Domin's super efficient suspension system. So the technology is fantastic, and you know that's often the theme of the Collaborate type competitions where there's some real cutting-edge R&D going on, and you know breaking boundaries and whatnot. But really, in terms of the competition itself, or how it works within the Collaborate landscape, the perfect on-point message from this project for me is that you've got Domin, who really wouldn't have a clue how to break into the automotive space, and what you've got with YASA being in the picture is that they have that tier 1 automotive background, and they can coach and support Domin on their journey to hopefully becoming an automotive tier 1 one day. So it's that perfect collaboration moment where you've got a couple of businesses with two great pieces of technology, and together they're creating a real opportunity for each other to market themselves in the automotive space. So It's a good example of what Collaborate can bring. It's as usual. It's the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Each of them have got great ideas, but together it's a real unique offer, and the Collaborate landscape helps them deliver. One of the things that you mentioned, Steve, earlier about is Steve mentioned earlier is about the whole commercialization element of it, and one of the things we'll get involved with is as part of your application, should you get there, is developing an exploitation plan. And that really is the mechanism by which we, as APC, and you guys as a consortium, deliver your projects and make sure you keep an eye on what those outcomes are. So you'll hear a lot of talk about exploitation plans and TRL and MRL walks and how those two things come together and how PDLs can help you do that. But before we dive into too much of that detail, I'll just mention the other project, which again, I pick it out really to highlight the broad scope of what Collaborate can bring, because additive, it's pretty obvious, it's e-machines and lightweighting. But M-Lighten, which is Gordon Murray Group and Carbon 360 and Constellium and Brunel University, it's a V12 petrol-engined car, and yet we're funding the lightweighting and manufacturing efficiency element of it. So just because you're not necessarily doing e-machines or batteries or any of those things does not mean that you are not necessarily in scope for some of these funded projects. So it's always worth that conversation that Steve mentioned earlier. If you think it might be in scope, it's worth putting together that one-page spec and having a go at it. But just to give you a little bit of detail on M-Lighten, it's Gordon Murray are the lead partner. Carbon 360 are helping them develop some lightweighting and reduced embedded carbon structure. So again, it's in that manufacturing space, it's in that zero emission or getting towards net zero space. Constellium are a really interesting partner involved there, because they've been on a journey with APC, and again, this is another aspect of the whole Collaborate thing. It's not just a one hit and you're done kind of thing. Constellium, I think, are on their third or fourth project with us, and it's all about building the supply chain for upcycled and recycled aluminium and creating that supply chain. So again, this is another good example of that Collaborate. It's on their own. Constellium would be struggling maybe to find outlets and ways of broadcasting and telling their story, but within this project, it gives them a great showcase for that. Carbon 360 similarly, it gives them an opportunity to develop their technology and manufacturing capabilities inside that automotive space, where again, had they been operating on their own, they may not be able to get there. And Brunel, it builds on their centre of excellence in the aluminium casting space down in London there. So again, it's another good example of how the Collaborate, each of the partners has their own exploitation plans. They have their own TRL, MRL walk, but the point of the competition is that it allows them to develop and and amplify the outcomes that they're seeking to achieve. So that's kind of the two projects I just wanted to talk about, just to give you an idea of the art of the possible. One's pure e-machines and lightweighting, and the other one's V12 petrol engines, but it's still in there as a lightweighting and manufacturing competitiveness scope.
So, Martin, I think it's fair to say that Collaborate isn't just for all the large employers.
Absolutely not. I think it's really important. As you say, obviously we fund the likes of JLR and some of the big OEMs, and Nissan are in the room too, but all the way down to very small SMEs. I have another project running with JLR at the moment, where we have a capacitor manufacturer out on the East Coast, API capacitors, and they are very early in their journey on the automotive tier one landscape. But again, this is all about developing exposing them to that automotive landscape, exposing the world of tier one supply chains into big OEMs, and the gap analysis element of it is a key feature of what we can bring. It's you aspire to be this to have this capability. Here's the pieces of the jigsaw that perhaps you need to be fitting together to become that complete picture.
So that must bring about lots of variety in a job like yours, with lots of different organisations to meet with and work with, and to help them through the collaborative landscape. So can you give us a bit more insight into the work of the PDL team, and give us perhaps a typical indication of the kind of support that you offer?
Sure. It's a very broad brush, and it's a bit of a kind of roving brief. We are in on day one, so again, you know, Steve will and the team will flash up a slide later on where he shows you the BD, the business development colleagues, but us PDLs are sat there and we build these relationships from day one of projects, and we can help you from the earliest germ of an idea all the way through the application process, all the way through delivery of the project contracts, all the way through the life of the project itself into closeout. So on that journey, you can imagine, for a start, there's a heck of a lot of paperwork to fill in. I'm afraid it is government, and we are giving you tax-based cash, so you'd expect a little bit of governance, and there is a bit of that, there's no doubt. But we're there to help you through that occasional minefield of filling bits of paper in and staying on the right side of the process, as it were, both in the application process, but clearly more obviously once we get into the project in flight. For instance, we have a process called project change requests, and they're an inevitable fact of life of complex multi-year projects where scope change might creep in. And again, this just I'll highlight this just to draw attention to the fact that, you know, things change, and projects can flex through their timescale. So, you know, but we're there to help you with that kind of meat and potatoes kind of grimble through the process. But the real value add, and where it gets interesting, because as you say, Steve, it's quite a broad scope of businesses and projects we get involved in. One of the things I really like to focus on is getting that exploitation plan in place. You guys, you know, the government is giving 50%, but that implies that you're turning up with a few million quid yourselves. So it's not a trivial undertaking to embark on one of these projects. And you'll set off with ideas on where you want to get to in terms of commercialization and whatnot. We capture that in, as I mentioned earlier, the exploitation plan, and I can be that sort of 10,000 foot view of the project, and making sure that we're keeping an eye on that, how that maps into TRL and MRL progression, because that's one of the key things that DBT looks for in terms of, you know, are we getting out of this what we all set out to do? It's a kind of barometer of success. There are others, you know, you'll get involved in the VFM documentation where we're measuring CO2 and jobs and whatnot, but TRL and MRL is a tangible metric we can use to keep an eye on that. So we'll help you with that journey. And then it's the what next, it's the what's next bit, and the point of contact bit. You know, once I'm part of a team, and we cover all the projects between us, and we have lots of coffee machine chats and more formal meetings within the organization, and the constant sharing of ideas and putting joining dots and getting people put in touch with one another who might not otherwise be aware of each other's existence almost, and just spotting those perhaps slightly hidden opportunities, and we can do a hell of a lot of building out of that future funding and potential future collaborations. So it's broad.
Yeah, and don't forget as well, and we haven't gone into great detail today about other APC competitions, but there is a possibility, there is a chance that you could take your collaborative product process and then build that then through scale up the next stage of the project. So, you know, those conversations you can have with the BD team and with Martin and his PDL colleagues become increasingly valuable. Because when you look at DRIVE35, it can work independently as a single fund for you, but it can also work as that sort of accelerator, that escalator, to try and support your organisation and growth and development as an organisation with that applicable level of funding. So keep those things in mind now as we start to move towards the sort of the end of the formal slides and move towards the questions. We hope in the last half an hour or so that we've given you a bit of an insight into Collaborate. We didn't want to go into too much detail today because, as we said, we've got the formal applicant briefing coming up in July. But what we want you to do is start talking to us about how you could put that project together, the kind of people you might like to involve and the kind of things you might like to do. That will then prepare you for when that competition opens. And then when that competition opens, you've then got those 2-3 months in which then to build and get that application ready to submit. And we really do want you to submit. And as we said before, we really do want you to be successful. So we'd like to thank you very much indeed for taking the time to listen to Martin and I chat about Collaborate today. We hope you found that useful and insightful. And we're going to throw the floor open to you now, and we'd be very pleased to take your questions. And those questions are going to be curated by our colleagues Alina and Chloe, who are also on the call. So Alina, Chloe, is there any questions for us to have a think about?
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for doing this as well, taking everyone through DRIVE35 and Collaborate. That was really, really good. Just one question here. So someone asked, what happens if we don't hit the competition submission date? Is there another one?
Yeah, so our competitions tend to open about twice a year. So Demonstrate and Collaborate, the two innovation competitions, previously opened in the start of the year, closed again in March, open again in June, shut again in September. So they'll follow a similar sort of cycle, we hope, into 2027. So if it's not quite right for you in this submission round, don't worry, hang on to that idea, keep developing it, keep growing it, keep working on it, and then get it ready again for when the competition reopens.
I think I'd just add to that, Steve, that again, if you do apply and you don't quite make it through this time, there's a lot of coaching goes on through that application process, which might just polish the application so that you're successful with ostensibly the same application next time round. So it's yeah.
Thank you. That actually answers another question, which was, if we're not successful, can we apply again?
I should have held my fire, Alina. Sorry.
No, you're all good. No, you're all good. There's another question. Do we get the money straight away?
So I'm going to ask Martin if he'd lead on that, because he probably has a better idea on how the projects are funded than me.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, basically the way the projects work, once you've received your grant offer letter, we formally kick the project off and we get into you know, the execution of the plan. And we have quarterly reviews, so that's a deep joy moment for all concerned, where you get to turn up at a session and tell myself and another of my colleagues about how everything's going and what work you've executed in that particular quarter. That work done is subject to a kind of very high level value for money audit, and you submit your claim through the relevant portals in IFS, which is another TLA that you'll become aware of. But effectively, it's a quarterly run process. A QRM, quarterly review meeting, occurs. You submit your claims, and as long as myself and the relevant people approve all of that, you'll receive your cash. And it's a fairly prompt turnaround. And without hogging the mic too long, one thing I would say to everybody considering this: the payment systems are actually very efficient, and they only usually fall over when the submission itself hasn't been executed well enough. So it's worth putting the right resource on the management of these projects. It's not a zero overhead undertaking. It's relatively minor, but it's not zero. So do put the right resource on it and put the right submissions in, and you'll get your payments promptly. It's a very efficient system when everybody's playing nicely.
Thank you. There's another question. When do we start? I assume this is for when someone is successful.
Yeah,
when
so
does the project start?
Yeah, so if you are successfully funded, and as Martin said, if we get through all the relevant due diligence bits without any bumps in the road, you will find on the IFS documentation, so the Innovation Funding Service, the bit that holds the key to the whole process, you will find that there's a defined start and a defined finish dates. That's the time at which your program can come together. Martin, is there ever any leeway around those dates at all?
Yeah, there's a little bit of scope. It's fundamentally what you don't do is start doing or executing task which you subsequently want to claim grant for until you've received your grant offer letter. There is even some scope around that, but I probably shouldn't mention it right now. But it's easier to think of, you get your grant offer letter, that's the starting gun, off we go. You're now doing work which you can then submit a claim to recover 50% of the cost or whatever your grant allocation is. But there is a little bit of you tell us effectively when you want to start. It has to be within a certain window, otherwise, it spreads itself out over the year. But there is a little bit of flexibility in both cases.
And that's where it comes back to making sure there's an effective, strong working relationship with your PDL, isn't it?
For sure. And again, we can help you navigate that whole process, champion, give people the gentle, encouraging nudge if some of the system level stuff is bogging things down and you want to hit a particular start date within the general window. So again, that's when I understand what you're trying to do, I can help you achieve your goals. That's fundamentally what I'm here for.
Thank you. Got another question here. As applications that pass APC assessment will be judged by external assessors, is it possible for applicants to see the assessor's guidance, scoring metrics, etc., helping us to ensure we include all necessary information for our applications to be fairly judged?
So when the competition process starts and your applications are submitted, there are relevant points in the application process that ensures that feedback is provided to you. That feedback is some feedback on your application, but also as well, it comes in the way of some assessor questions for later in the process. So you'll start to see from that feedback and from the questions that are given to you, the kind of information that perhaps wasn't overly clear in the first instance or might require a little more detail. And that feedback and those questions, when looked at in the whole, as Martin said, provides you with some really good insight as to what you might need to do to prepare for that interview and to prepare for that assessment. But also as well, if not quite successful at the first hurdle, how you can then use those documents to build on and get that application ready for a resubmission.
Yep. Yeah, I'd echo that, Steve. It's there's definitely a feedback loop in there, and again, some of the coaching and help we can offer is we can help you with dummy interviews. So if you've never been through this before, the interviews process itself is, as the question alluded to, sort of independently run, independent of APC, which for audit purposes as much as anything governance. But we can help you through that process so that you're not walking into the room totally ignorant of how that process works. So, we're here to help. It's that cradle to grave elbow support we can bring.
Yeah, and the guidance to get you to prepare for interviews is also good as well. It's very fair, very honest, very open.
Sure.
So again, hopefully everybody will see that once the applications start.
Thank you. There's another question here. How many other people apply?
Across our innovation competitions, there are a relatively large number of applications. Obviously, they probably more for the Demonstrate pot than there is for Collaborate, because Demonstrate is a 12-month program, a slightly smaller funding amount. Collaborate, we tend to see upwards of double-digit applications every round, if not a few more than that. So it's worthwhile, again, talking to us early, engaging with us early, and then looking to see how you can get that application together at the right time to put in with your fellow manufacturers.
Thank you. What is it like dealing with a government department?
Well, I'll give that one to Martin.
It's basically, once the competition's up and running, you'll have two key contacts that you deal with. There's the PDL, of which I am one, and there's a guy called the monitoring service provider who is representing Innovate UK, who manage the process itself of filling in the IFS and paying out of the funds. fundamentally, it's between the PDL and the MSP is your point of contact, and you shouldn't have any real need to speak to anybody other than either the PDL or the MSP. I'm racking my brains to think of an occasion when that hasn't been the case, and I genuinely can't think of one in the couple of years I've been here in the umpteen projects I've run. So generally speaking, we try and successfully, so far as I can observe, keep that communication path short and precise.
Thank you. There's another question here. Is thermal propulsion system development in scope if the project supports / underpins the transition to zero carbon fuels, but the system itself does not use zero carbon fuel?
So this is probably one we'll need to have a chat about outside today. So more than happy for you to drop a quick note to info@apcuk.co.uk, and then we can pick it up from there and arrange a chat outside of today's meeting.
Thank you. There's a question here. Do I need a quality management system?
I'll take that one, Steve. I think the point of Collaborate is you can, the tier 1 / OEM is going to be a mature organization. That's again the point of Collaborate. It brings together people who are in various places on the journey. So they're going to be a mature, fully fledged, in inverted commas, organization. The SMEs, on the other hand, may well be operating outside of OEM, so they're not necessarily working with OEM standards and best practices. And again, that is kind of the point of it. Clearly, there's the project itself, which has its own technical and commercial scope. But the Collaborate bit is bringing along people who aren't necessarily fully fledged suppliers or operators in any particular space, and developing and maturing them into somebody who can operate successfully. So the short answer is probably no, but the longer answer is, that's part of the journey we want to get people on within Collaborate in particular.
And then there is, of course, Martin, the consideration that if you are a non-automotive supplier moving into that space, then your client, your OEM, might then look to you to implement some sort of systems, program certification, etc., to show that you're automotive ready.
And that would be part of the MRL walk. So as I say, the exploitation plan is, we're getting into this because not only do we want to develop the technology, but we want to develop ourselves as a potential tier 1, and on this is UK PLC that we're trying to develop here jointly, and that's part of that is growing that SME base so that we can do more stuff this side of the ports.
Perfect,
thank you. I think we've got time maybe for one more question. There is something here. What kind of project management tools do I need? How do you show you're in control?
Oh, again, this is a perfect one for Martin.
Yeah, I think there's nothing prescriptive. So when there's nothing, thou shalt, Microsoft project or anything. So there's nothing prescriptive, and there's nothing prescriptive that says TS or ISO or any of the the numbers that might qualify you the various accreditations. It's what does that exploitation plan look like? Where are you today? Where do you want to get to as a consequence of engaging in this collaborative funded competition? And if it all stitches itself together, because again, when you build out the competition in the first place, if you're the SME, you're going to have to find yourself an OEM / tier 1 to be the lead partner. If you're an OEM / tier 1, you're going to have to find yourself an SME to be a partner. And it is that is the essence of Collaborate. It's that juxtaposition of two organizations who are in different places on the journey, developing some piece of technology together, which is not incidental. The technology development bit is clearly key to both players, but it's also the maturation of the businesses themselves as a consequence of embarking on the collaboration, which again, we haven't talked much about the academic institutions, which are also part of the collaborative nature of this, and it's trying to draw in that academic mature industry, burgeoning industry, and bringing that whole melting pot together to, hopefully to the benefit of all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we've got all the questions, but if there's anything that anyone wants to ask further, please reach out to us. I've put the email address in the chat as well.
So, folks, we'll move on to officially close the session now. And again, on behalf of Martin and I, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to attend today. We hope that you found the session useful, informative, and given you, hopefully, again, that confidence and that belief and that motivation that Collaborate is something that's right for you and your organisation. So, what's next? The call to action is the fact that applications for Collaborate open on the 22nd of June. So take some time now to book a meeting slot with the BD team, talk to us, highlight that project to us, and perhaps pass on a little summary if you've got one. Keep your eye open for the official calling notice for the applicant briefing webinar, again, that will take place in early July. That will offer you a lot more detail from today, and we'll give you a chance again just to ask some questions to other colleagues from across the organisation and our colleagues from DBT as well. If you haven't done so already, please look to follow APC on LinkedIn, and importantly, sign up for our newsletter. That newsletter gives you some handy insights into DRIVE35 and competitions, but also as well will give you some nice news from across the industry, and then highlight all the very important stuff that sits in the public domain on APC's website that could help you to build that project. That includes things like quarterly insight reports, roadmaps, technology reports, and insight reports that will help you to think about the kind of technology that will push the industry forward as part of these competition applications. So we're going to close a few minutes early. We're going to wish you all the very best for the rest of the day. We hope you've enjoyed yourself, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks all.